For my project, I'm going to look at how linear algebra is applied in genetics. First, I'm going to start off with talking about what genetics is. Genetics is the study of heredity. Heredity is the biological process of a parent passing down genes onto their children or offspring. Each child inherits genes from their biological parents, which then expresses specific traits. Some genes might carry the risk of certain diseases and disorders that may pass on from parents to their offspring. We can use linear algebra to look at any diseases or disorders that could be passed down from parents to offsprings and the likelihood of it happening. The type of inheritance in particular interest to us is autosomal inheritance. Autosomal inheritance is when a trait depends on the presence or absence of certain alleles on the autosomes. The pattern might be dominant or recessive. There are two forms of genes, denoted by capital A and lowercase a. Capital A is the dominant allele, and lowercase a is the recessive allele. This gives three possible genotypes: capital A, capital A, capital A, lowercase a, and lowercase a. So the example I'm going to look at is eye color. In eye color, brown is dominant to blue in any other eye color, but I'm going to specifically look at brown and blue. So the capital A gene dominates the lowercase a gene. So capital A genes and capital A, lowercase a genes have brown eyes, while lowercase a has blue eyes. So in this example, the population has an equal distribution for genotype. So the vector x has values of 1/3. So in this frequency vector, will look like this. So here we'll look at the resultant matrices of genotypes. As you can see, for capital A, we have three vectors: 1, 0, 0, 1/2, 1/2, 0, and then 0, 1, 0. So then we have, and that's of the two dominant alleles. And then for one dominant allele and one recessive allele, we have 1/2, 1/2, 0, 1/4, 1/2, 1/4, 0, 1/2, 1/2. And then for the two recessive alleles, we have 0, 1, 0, 0, 1/2, 1/2, and 0, 0, 1. And these are all the transition matrix of these alleles. So, using the equation of xn to the AA, x to the n minus 1, we get these vectors. So as we continue with this equation, eventually this sequence will converge to x is equal to 1, 0, 0. So basically, everyone will eventually have brown eyes with this equation. So looking at the transition matrix of a dominant allele and a recessive allele, eventually it will converge to 1/4 of two dominant alleles, half of a dominant allele and a recessive allele, and then 1/4 of two recessive alleles. And then the last transition matrix of the two recessive alleles will eventually converge to 0, 0, 1. So if you were to continue converging two recessive alleles, they'll eventually all have blue eyes. So one more way we can look at this is through diagonalization. This is just a quicker way to look at it. So matrix A will be written as a product of an invertible matrix P and diagonal matrix D, and then an inverse of P. So we get A is equal to P, D, inverse of P. And then we have A to the n is equal to P, D to the n, P, the inverse of P, where n is equal to 1, 2, 3. And this is what the diagonalization of the matrix will look like. So if we enter in our values for the alleles, for the two dominant alleles, we get the eigenvalues of 1, 1/2, and 0. So the diagonalization matrix will look like what I have here. And then we have the invertible matrix, and our eigenvectors are vector 1, vector 2, and vector 3. So eventually this shows that once you use this formula of A equals P, D, P, inverse of P, it eventually shows that the vector goes to 1, 0, 0, as in approaches infinity.